Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here. Glad to see such a good turnout and to be with you all this afternoon. My name is Ruben Mercado. I am a program manager here with SHIP, working on the programs team, working on career and leadership development with our members. So I'll be moderating today's discussion on fundraising. So it's going to be a good session. Be sure to have lots of questions. Be sure to have them in the Q&A chat, and we will get to all of them best we can. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our speakers to introduce themselves, starting with Jasmine.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine Fuentes. I'm the Vice President here at the Dallas-Fort Worth Professional Chapter. Super excited to have you all here and just share some more knowledge and answer your questions. I'll hand it over to Rogelio.
Thank you, Jasmine. Hi, everyone. I'm Rogelio Mendoza. I am this year's Director of Relations for SHIP DFW Professional. Very excited to be here and answer anything that we can answer. Thank you. Pass it back over to Ruben.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much for being with us and sharing your expertise. I know we're going to have a good discussion. While we're waiting on questions from our attendees to come in, I've got a few just to get us started and maybe get you all thinking about some of the things you might want to ask yourselves. But the first thing that I had was just, how can chapters develop a strong case for support that resonates with potential donors and clearly demonstrate the impact of their fundraising efforts?
I can elaborate a little bit on that. So some things that we have here in the DFW chapter, it's our partnerships package. So with that, we outline some of the benefits that the partners can get. So we have a lot of statistics, like how many members we have, the different roles that they are involved in, and also companies that they're employed at. So just sharing some of that and just in like a report format for them to just be able to read it on their spare time. And then also opening the conversation that if they want to chat with us, with Rogelio, who's our director of relations, and also like our vice president or president, we open that conversation just to have like a quick 15-20 minute call just to outline a little bit more of the events that we.
Yeah, that's great. That's I like what you said about, I think one of the most important aspects of it is just having that data ready to go. You mentioned that you have information on how many members are involved and things like that. And that's usually one of the first questions that we get when we're facing potential sponsors and potential fundraisers. So that's good information to just have readily available. I also wanted to ask, just what are some successful and creative fundraising event ideas that chapters can implement, maybe based on you all's experience, just things you've seen that work really well that maybe give some of our guests good ideas for things that they can implement.
Yeah, I can start with this one. So we recently just wrapped up our last a year, and we had really strong fundraisers. I was particularly part of the GLETA fundraising program. And there we were in charge of hosting fundraisers. But these events, we allowed different organizations to help sponsor us. The main one that comes to mind is in our scholarship gala, we had a auction, and we were able to get services and goods from different donators. And through that, we were able to showcase what these local communities can help support us with, and they received very good messages from our audience. They were in bidding wars oftentimes, and we often heard so much great feedback from our members who really enjoyed the prizes that they won. Like our scholarship gala, there's a lot of different ways how you can support us through sponsoring tables, through participating, just through the different ways that we can. But we often have so many different avenues, other fundraisers that we often rely on our business partners, our local communities to help support us along the way.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really great. We had our first audience question come in from Edwin asking if you can speak more about how you ran the March Madness fundraiser.
Yeah. So We were able to start that with just there was a very interested individual in our chapter that was asking, like, is this something that we would want to pursue, since a lot of people in our chapter are very involved, or they care a lot about March Madness. And for those that don't know, March Madness is the men's and women's basketball tournaments for college. We focus on the men's March Madness bracket, and here we basically opened up to our membership. We basically asked whoever's interested in making a bracket, you can make as many brackets as you want. And we did it digitally online. And once people paid, then they were able to join the bracket. And the goal is to be able to predict as many good, like whoever's going to win these games from each round of March Madness, and whoever had the most accurate predictions, and you get rewarded points based off each round. And whoever had the closest bracket, or whoever predicted as many wins as possible, based off the points that they were rewarded, then that would be the leaderboard. And I think we rewarded the top three. So it was very competitive. We really enjoyed it, and we definitely got a lot more people interested into March Madness, because it's something that you may not have known before, but just being in that atmosphere, it definitely was very welcoming and very enjoyable for everybody.
Yeah, I think it helps when you tap into things like that are already like popular, and a lot of people already do brackets, and so when you can just tie it into things that, like, oh, I was gonna make a bracket anyway, and this goes to a good cause, so that's cool. It's a really creative idea. We had another question come in the chat that I think is probably on a lot of people's minds, and just, it's some common discussions that we've been having, but just with the current political environment and some companies stepping back from DE&I. How have you pivoted, and how you request funding or partnership from local companies? If you have any thoughts on that.
For that, I would say that the planning for that started within our board of directors. So starting during our first meeting after the transition period is just starting to think about this as one of our potential risks, using the SWOT analysis from the chapter management tool, and then start brainstorming ideas in which we can reword our sponsorship package, how we can change some of the wording that we currently have, and also just expand on it during those one-on-one calls with the possible sponsor. And then also, we know that that's going to affect sometimes our funding coming in from sponsors. So also thinking of other ideas in which we can connect with the community and also our members, and see how we can arrange other types of fundraisers. So one of them right now that we're working on is it's called our annual ship barbecue. So it's just a way to get the members together during the summer and have them like a cookout style hangout at a park. And that also helps us fundraise for our upcoming events in the semester. So just brainstorming those ideas, and as you can come together within your board of directors, and also just see ways in which you can use raise different funds through different ways.
Yeah, bouncing off what Jasmine was saying, we've already talked about it ahead of the year on how we want to tackle this, because I know that it's an issue that is very relevant given the current climate. What I want to emphasize is that we rely a lot on within our team, not just one person doing it, the single job. A lot of everyone on the team incorporates all their ideas, and since we have such an inclusive environment, we're able to get many ideas, and then we'll just build off those ideas through just further conversations. And we often have a lot of different roles for our members to give back and also incorporate their ideas. I feel like we have a really great relationship with our members, and through so many avenues, through many sources of people, we're able to come up with ideas that we once didn't think of before, and that allows us to raise new ways of funds, but also work with what's been in the past and see how we can continue those same sources.
Yeah, those are really great, thoughtful answers. I like how both of you pointed to existing resources that you already have as able to maybe overcome some of those things. So I like the shout to the chapter management tool, which we were also discussing earlier in today. So definitely like a helpful tool that's at your disposal. And then also, like Rogelio was saying, just like sharing the responsibility and collaborating and bringing everyone's ideas to the table helps people feel empowered and come up with like creative solutions as we just, navigate new things and come up with overcoming any obstacles that may come our way. So I like that you were both thinking about that. Next question we had in the chat from Selena was on how do you align fundraising goals with SHIP's mission and annual objectives?
I can start this off. So, how we aligned our fundraising goals with the mission and annual objectives is once again, we go back to the chapter management tool. We have a couple of goals from the past year that we use as reference. And then we also, during that transition meeting and all of our board of director meetings that we have after, we go back to the first set of goals that we wrote down during that very first meeting. And when we're brainstorming those objectives during our first meeting, we go back and forth on the goals that we have as a chapter and also the goals and the mission of SHIP. And then just make sure that we're staying aligned within that. And we also make sure that we communicate that with our GLEDA program, which is our early career mentoring program here in DFW. We make sure that we relay that information to the members so they know that where their efforts are going forward, like if it's supporting our scholarship fund for our upcoming events that we have, or if it's supporting other initiatives for our chapter. We just make sure that we're as transparent as possible on where the funds are going. That way they can also brainstorm ideas and how they can, create different events. I don't know if Rogelio has like another example or wants to touch upon that since you were a mentee last year, but yeah.
Yeah. So within the fundraising committee, we made sure that every fundraising event that we had was for a significant purpose. We wanted to make sure we broadcasted that to our members as well. When we created those flyers for each event, we made sure to list where the money was going to support. So we want to have full transparency in that. And something I did want to say to add on is when we brainstorm for these events, we make sure that every event is supported, and if there's ways for us to collaborate within one another, we lean onto the other committees, and we're able to support funding these events from every pillar that we want to accomplish within SHIP DFW.
That's great. Glad to hear about the things y'all are doing to just stay aligned with the overarching mission of the organization. So it's always important. We've had a lot of really good questions coming in through the chat. So appreciate everybody being so engaged and asking such thoughtful questions. Next one we had was from Edwin, who was asking, how do you use money from donations, reimbursements, chapter debt / credit card? Should pop up here in the display here in a little bit. But if y'all have thoughts on that.
I'll answer. I can answer the question about like reimbursements. So we have a really good treasurer. They keep track of all the money that's coming in and out, and we do have a report within our shared drive where we can always reference that report, making sure that everything is staying up to date. The way we request reimbursements is by sending a screenshot or like a proof of the receipt and making sure that we know what this item that we purchased was for, and making sure that they know, and we also write it down on our internal side. So another thing that our treasurer also does is at the start of each year, they create a budget. So each position has like a set amount of budget, and that way we can make sure that all the positions are arranging events and hosting events within their budget frame, and then making sure that we're sharing like this is coming out of this budget during our board of director meetings. Um, and then in regards from how do we use money from donations, um, that really just depends on like if it was for a fundraiser that we mentioned that it was going towards the scholarships, then that money is allocated for that fund. If it's coming from donations where it's just like maybe in our signature we have like a PayPal link, that one's just going through the overall chapter. That's just the way that we do it. And then if we need to like not borrow but allocate more money, it's coming out of that overall chapter fund. That's just the way our treasurer does it, and just making sure that whenever we have our monthly board of directors meetings, that's when where the funds are going and how much was used that month. That's when they provide that report to everyone in the meeting.
I couldn't say any better. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, really, really detailed step by step. So thank you for going through that for everybody. There's a question on if you could go into more detail about how you plan your signature gala event. Sounds like a big event that's also used as a fundraiser. And if you can give more info about just like the planning and how you establish the relationships to get things to auction.
So I can say that there's different paths that we seek donations. I already mentioned a unique way was the auction, and there we had different goods and services that we were able to gain through word of mouth mainly. We asked our members, we asked our board directors, our GLEDA program, ways that we can, or basically trying to gain prizes that we can auction off. We also have an entry fee for professional students, companies, anyone that's interested in joining. We have a set price that you would it basically a cover for you to be able to enter and participate in our gala. And with all those funds, that helps us pay for the event day of, but also allow us to raise more scholarship funds for students that are interested in applying. There's often we often also seek other services, but it's a group effort. I think our membership director was leading the efforts, but he definitely used a lot of assistance from other officers and other committee members. And we often seek like who wants to participate, and through that we are able to gain more manpower and gain more ideas. And through collection of meetings, through check-ins, we're able to check in our progress towards gala, because it's not something that you get done in a day. It takes months to prepare in advance. So I've seen it executed this past year very successfully. And I think moving forward, or from what I also heard, we also ask our members, like gaining their feedback on how the event was executed, and we just want to make sure that we follow up on that and we incorporate those ideas and how for improvement, and see what also worked for future galas, scholarship galas.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit more background, so we do start planning our scholarship gala about 9 months in advance. So our scholarship gala this year was held at the end of April, and we started planning that a little bit after National Convention. Our membership director started gathering members that would be interested in helping us plan to get a little bit more manpower to help us. It's such a big event. Just having everyone's input, and especially in trying to get possible gifts for our auction, it was very essential to start planning it ahead of time. So if you're thinking of planning something this big, we do recommend starting thinking ahead of time, even starting thinking about it as soon as your year starts. That way you have enough time to plan. It's always better to have more time to plan than less time.
Last thing, towards the end, the last part of the question, how did you establish relationships to get things auctioned? I just want to add, like, how on the planning side, for the venue, we looked at different places or where we can host, and then for different services that we like, for the photography, for the music, we often looked into different vendors or any locals, anyone in the community that we thought that would be able to incorporate into the gala. So we definitely also looked into different different. We had a lot of options, and before we made a final decision on different parts of the gala. So we definitely did our research. We talked to our members and made sure that we were able to fill in those spots that were needed to execute the gala.
Yeah, it's always good to have options, and I especially like what you all were saying about taking the time. First of all, that it takes a lot of time to plan things like this, so giving yourself adequate time, and then also just that post event and just afterwards wrap up talking about what worked, what didn't work, like you highlighted, also helps to make things easier for the next group that plans the event. So that's awesome. There's a question in the chat on what steps were taken to get the nonprofit tax ID for your chapter. And can you elaborate on the process and timeline to get it completed?
That's a good question. I would say rely a lot on your regional board to get a little bit more insight of that. Our chapter already had that. By the time I started, our chapter already had our nonprofit tax ID, which it is very helpful, except especially when you're trying to book like a specific venue. Sometimes they do ask, like for example, our gala, our venue did ask if we have a nonprofit tax ID number, that they do give us like a discount for that. So our discount for the gala, for example, was that they didn't charge us for the price of um, reserving the space. They only charge us for the price of per plate. So that's very beneficial. Unfortunately, I don't. We weren't really involved in that process because our past, like from a couple years ago, board of directors did that for us, and we just gotta make sure that our treasurer is staying up to date with that. But one of the things I would recommend is to reach out to your regional vice president and just asking them a little bit more on the process.
Thank you. Yeah, and I also see in the chat that Selena had posted that the first time takes a little bit longer, but that they can send info on the entire process. So thank you for offering that up, and be sure to connect if you have questions on that, or if you're trying to get started. So awesome. The next question I wanted to get to was I lost my place a little bit. A lot of questions have been coming in, which is good. This question's been in here a while on what key information should we highlight to resonate with potential funders. I know you talked a little bit earlier about some of the stuff you keep track of.
Um, One of the, besides like the demographics and where your members are currently employed at, and also like their majors. Another thing too is just showing how many of those signature events you have. If you award any scholarships, like a specific amount that you awarded the year before, and maybe if you have that information from prior years, would be beneficial. How many students you impacted with the events that you had, if you keep attendance of that, would be a great thing to also highlight to showcase your potential sponsors. Like this, if you contribute to our mission, you will be impacting X amount of students, X amount of professionals, and it's all thanks to your support. Something along the lines like that would be super great for them to know. A lot of them just like to see numbers. We also just like to see numbers as well. So making sure that you're using the way we get our numbers is again using the chapter management tool. So that's it's just like a really great way for you to making sure that you're always updating that, because it's very beneficial in also cases like this to get possible sponsors.
Fantastic. Thanks for pointing some of those out. We've got, oh, no, we got time. Okay, a couple more questions coming in through the chat. So one from Maida on any suggestions on best way to receive payment from companies who can only pay with credit card, because there are fees associated with Eventbrite, Square, Venmo, all those. So just any thoughts or suggestions on navigating that?
One of the things that our treasurer uses is PayPal. It's secured. So that's one of the ways that you can use it. You can also go through the national, um, I forgot my mind blanked out right now on the name, but you can go also through the national route to get that funding.
Yeah, that national route, I've heard of it. Since when I was serving on the board of directors, we often talked about it. Basically, I think there is a small fee, but depending on, you're able to getting funding. If you can't get it through your directly to the chapter, you're able to get it directly through Ship National, so they're able to help and support that way. Yeah, I think the Ship finance team can really help out with that. You can reach them to finance@ship.org. I would say there's definitely some flexibility, depending on the event that you're trying to host. I know when we were still on the university side, often if they weren't able to directly send us money, they're able to pay for the food for an event. But there's definitely unique cases where you can work around if they can only pay through credit card.
Thank you all so much. Wanted to let everybody know that we've got about 5 minutes left. So any lingering questions, be sure to get them in. But we've got a few more to get to here. We have what's something you would love to know about fundraising for your chapter that maybe you didn't know before, but you know now. If you go back and give your past selves a word of advice.
That's a good question.
Just anything you've learned along the way that would, yeah. I know you've touched on it a couple times during the presentation, but it's like, yeah.
I think one of the things that we would have loved to know before hosting like a lot of fundraisers is know what our members are interested in, like participating in. So I think it was mentioned in the presentation maybe that we found out through the auction during the scholarship gala that a lot of our members like investing or like bidding on things that are like hands-on or things that you can actually do rather than on like physical items. That's something that we would have loved to know before getting more of like the physical things and looking more into experiences.
Something that I feel that I've would have loved to know. It's something you learn with the experience through the execution of these events. Is that with such a big chapter that Ship DFW is, and I imagine other chapters might be as big as well. You want to make sure you plan out things in advance, because with all these different directors and a lot of different events that you want to host, often you are battling for trying to host an event because you don't want your events to clash at the same day. Now that you are a professional, and you want to make sure you plan these things in advance, so you gain as much audience or people to come out, or just make sure you have your communication out as well, because you don't want to be clashing and with timing. And if you give yourself the most bandwidth possible, then you're able to make sure that these fundraisers are executed as you wish, versus not as effective if planned out very last minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that's been a common thread of just like making sure we have enough time to plan for all of those. So Francisco put in the chat as well if y'all are familiar with volunteer matching programs, and also that he's happy to talk about it in the breakouts following this. So also a plug for the breakouts after this to make sure you attend and have some good conversation on it.
I think this really depends on the individual members. I know at my company they offer volunteering matching programs internally, but I'm not sure, Jasmine, if we use something along those lines. I think if we volunteer to ship, maybe potentially at certain events, and they may be able to donate. But I'll let you take out that one.
Yeah, we do try to just get involved with the community and see like ways in which we can help. I know in the past we have reached out to the Big Brother, Big Sister program just to see how our members can help, and we just share that information with our members during the general body meetings. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there's always opportunities to collaborate on things like that. So good to be thinking of. Okay, so we're about at time. Want to remind everybody to please join us in the breakout discussion following this session, and to also please do the session survey and send in your feedback. So I want to thank our speakers, Jasmine and Rogelio, for being with us this afternoon and providing their insights and experience. And thank y'all for attending and having such good questions. So thank you, and we'll talk soon.